Welcome back to the second segment of the next step in our journey, traversing 7,000 years of Indian history on this 75th year of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. We've taken you to the Harappan port city of Lothal, where my colleague Sujata Dwivedi has been holding fort. Let's hop across now to in North India, in Haryana, near Hisar, lies the town of Rakhigarhi, where Professor Vasant Shinde and his team have discovered the first DNA samples, some ranging for more than 5 to 6 millennia old. My colleague Gauri Kundalia is there on the ground. Gauri, before we start off with you, let's do a quick introduction of what Rakhigarhi is all about. Listen in.
In the Hansi district of Haryana. One of the largest known Harappan towns, the Rakhigarhi site dates back to the 2600 to 1800 BC. Representing a planned township comprising of mud brick and burnt brick houses, the Rakhigarhi township boasts of a proper drainage system. Excavations from the site have revealed a rich ceramic industry, including jars, bowls, as well as goblets, to name a few. Excavations have also yielded antiquities like terracotta and shell bangles, precious stones, as well as extended burials. We now bring you this exclusive and special report from Rakhigarhi.
Okay. Gauri Kondolia, my colleague, is standing there. Gauri, Rakhigarhi, tell us a bit about this. We are talking about one of the most significant historical sites in North India. We've sent a documentary team there before. They've been there with Professor Shinde, who's sitting with us today, but you are there on the ground live right now. What are you seeing around you?
Now, as far as the artifacts are concerned, several artifacts have been found in Rakhigarhi over the years. Now, we've been just walking over the site and we've ourselves noticed some of the artifacts here in Rakhigarhi. If you could look at the floor over here, this is a terracotta bangle that we found. We also found a smaller bangle in size, which means it was a child's bangle. This one is a little bigger in size, means it belongs to an adult. So lots of artifacts like this. Here's another one. Here's another piece of terracotta which could have perhaps been of a bangle or other sort of jewelry. This here is a bone piece. This is a bone piece from a skeleton from the Harappan times, from around 5,000 years ago. This also we discovered right here on the site. Similarly, there are bone pieces like this all over the site. Something like this that actually comes out during the rain is what we are told. So excavations continue to happen, and excavations have been happening here 2022 as well. Second part is pending of the excavation in 2022. So when the rainy season, when monsoons take place, some sort of artifacts do come out. As far as the material is concerned, it's carnelian, terracotta and other materials are used. What is interesting is that gold also was found here, but in very limited quantities in this particular site. But what we can see in large numbers are these bones, these skeleton bones, and also terracotta bangles and other jewelry which was made both in manufacturing units as well as those worn by people who...
Okay. Gauri, sorry, I think we're having trouble with the connection there. It's a bit jumpy. But I'm being told that there are some mounds behind you that you can see. Can you tell us a bit about them? What are these mounds about? I mean, if I remember correctly, this is where the excavation was done. They were like several layers. Is that right?
Well, we're reporting from Rakhigarhi in Haryana right now, and what we can see here is that the site, now as far as you can see, the site is spread over 500 hectares. This is just one of the mounds, as the archaeologists like to call it. We're standing on mound number 1 right now as we speak. Now, several interesting things here, viewers. Now, this is one of the excavations that took place, and this is the recent most excavation. That's why it's covered with this black-green plastic over here to preserve what they've found. And if you could see, we can come right over here, this particular excavation right here is a street. This is a Harappan era street which has been excavated and then later preserved. Now, if you could sort of pan our camera towards the street, what is interesting here is during the Harappan times, as we've read in books and as we've seen on movies and TVs, they used to cut each other at right angles, and this is what we can see here. These streets actually cutting each other at right angles, extremely meticulously planned, well-planned streets, one of the most significant features of the Harappan era. Now, if we talk about this mound, particularly, this mound was a habitation cum manufacturing unit. That means people used to stay here, and people also used to have their manufacturing units over here in this particular mound, which means that these excavations, if you could walk right over here, we can see these brick kilns. Now, these are sun-baked bricks, to be specific, which have been used in these sort of constructions from the Harappan era. Now, this is, we are told, the blackened floor right over here. This signifies a sun-baked brick from those times, from over 5,000 years ago, which archaeologists have been managed to figure out and preserve. And this is roughly the floor plan of a house. This could have been a room, a bathroom. The smaller ones, we are told, are bathrooms or kitchens. The bigger ones could be perhaps a bedroom from the Harappan era. So those are several interesting things from this particular site in Rakhigarhi. This is mound number 1, and we're reporting from Rakhigarhi.
Okay, Gauri, just stay with me, because you know what else do you see? Because you told us about the mounds, you told us about what you are actually seeing, which is just the terracotta which is strewn on the ground over there. But what is the pattern of the city there, or so of the town there, that is observable at this point of time?
Now, we've come right outside where the excavations actually have taken place in Rakhigarhi, and Rakhigarhi has been in talks for being the place where the first Indian DNA was discovered. So as far as Indians are concerned, they came from India. That is what Rakhigarhi told us. But what is interesting, viewers, is that it continues. The civilizational continuity is very much visible even when we talk about the village here. We saw upstairs that the excavations showed those streets which cut each other at right angles. And if you look at these streets, these modern streets of this village, they cut each other at right angles. A straight street and a perpendicularly laid down street cutting each other at right angles. So the civilization continuity from 5,000 years ago continues. It's not just the place where the first Indian DNA was discovered, it continues. This goes on to prove how this sort of continues over the years, and the civilizational continuity is very much there in this village, which is just 150 kilometers from Delhi, right in Haryana, very close to the national capital, but the 5,000-year-old civilization.
And Gauri, it seems to be a functioning village there. I mean, there are houses right there, and I remember Professor Shinde taking us through this, and right where the houses of where people are living right now, continuous civilization. Right next to them, you have a 5,000-year-old mound from which they've discovered DNA. So, coming to that DNA part of this, because the skeletons and the bone samples that were found from this, are they still on site? Can we see the location? Is that the location behind you, Gauri? Yeah, go ahead.
All right, now we're standing at mound number 4 in Rakhigarhi. Now, what we'd like to show our viewers here are these yellow spots right over here. These yellow, whitish spots right over here, viewers. These are bones, and these have been excavated from all over Rakhigarhi, not just in this mound. We found them on the floor. We found them on the on all sorts of rocks that are present here. This is one of the mounds that is right next to habitation of the current time. That's right next to a house right here. Over 63 skeletons have been excavated from Rakhigarhi. What these people look out for are these yellowish structures, these white, yellow sort of structures which signify bones. What have been excavated include skeletons of male, female, and of children. Also lots of cattle, and lots of cattle skeletons have also been discovered from the kitchens, which actually go on to prove that people over there were also perhaps non-vegetarian. The kinds of animals which were found there include lots of cattle, including ox, including also bull and cow, also sheep was found. Some people also suggest, some researchers suggest rhino was discovered here, but that is still under contention. We don't know for sure if rhinos were found here. Now here's an interesting thing also which we'd like to show our viewers. Here's a bullock cart of sorts from that from those times, but this is specific. It's very typical to Harappa, and it's also typical to this region, and only in certain regions of that period of the Indus-Saraswati civilization, this form of carts are found, and this is a very peculiar structure of carts, we are told, which is found then and now.
You know what, Gauri,
area.
what you are showing us, literally showing us, is exactly what we've been discussing with Abhijit. When he said this is a larger region. We've just been in Lothal, which is an hour and a half out of Ahmedabad. We've come now a couple of hours outside of Delhi. Now imagine if you wanted to traverse that distance in a modern motor car, how long that would take you, and you find similar things. And the man who's done a large part of the excavation, including literally finding the bones from the soil, Professor Vasant Shinde, is on the broadcast with us. Professor Shinde, welcome back on NewsX. Great to have you on this very happy Independence Day to you, sir. Can you tell our viewers, sir, about Rakhigarhi? What all you found there?
Sorry?
Tell us a bit about Rakhigarhi and what all you found there, sir.
Can you repeat? Yeah, Rakhigarhi, as I say that, Rakhigarhi is the site, where you find the roots are going back to almost 6,000 BC at Rakhigarhi, and the proper, evidence of the development from maybe village life to urban life at this particular site. So that is a very, very important discovery that we have made at the site of Rakhigarhi. Secondly, the dates of the beginning of the Harappan culture is going back almost, in Pakistan, most of the dates range from 4,000 to 1500 BC. But now we have from 6,000 to 1500 BC in this area. So these are the early dates that we have found at the site. So thirdly, we have for the first time, we have discovered the DNA of the Harappan people. And we have been discussing about this. We know that right from the Harappans to modern time, the DNA has not changed. Of course, there's a mixing happening, but that mixing was very small. So most of us from Kashmir or from Ladakh, Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Andaman, Nicobar, and from Afghanistan to Bengal, most of us carry the Harappan genes. So the Harappan, the genes are spread on such a large area. So that is one thing that we have found. Secondly, also apart from this, DNA, we have also done a research called craniofacial reconstruction. For the first time, we have shown how the Harappan people look like. So we have reconstructed the facial features of some Harappan male and female also. And what is interesting that that there is so much similarity between the Harappans and the modern people in terms of the complexion and the appearance. So there's a lot of continuity in that. You were also mentioning that that there is a lot of similarity in the modern village. In fact, when we moved in the village, particularly after the excavation in the evening, I get the impression that I am moving the Harappan village because the streets are exactly the same, the dimensions are the same, the nature of the streets are the same. Even if you look at the house, typical house in Haryana, particularly in that region, it is based on Harappan plan. People making the tandoor is the Harappan legacy, which has continued. And even today, tandoor is so popular in the northern part of this country.
Absolutely fascinating. So if you're watching this telecast, for people, a detailed interview with Professor Shinde, both on television and with him on the ground in Rakhigarhi, is available on our YouTube page. You can just go on our YouTube page and search Vasant Shinde NewsX and you'll find it. Professor Shinde, as always, it was a treat to have you and showcase the work that you and your team and a large bunch of archaeologists have been doing there for now several years. Thanks very much for joining us on the telecast. Let me quickly jump in and bring Abhijit into this. Abhijit, I mean, literally this is what we're discussing, the Harappan seals, the carts, what we call Harappan, but is this Indus-Saraswati civilization right across North India, all 5,000–6,000 years ago. And Professor Shinde has been pointing out, he's found the skeletal remains here. He's been able to identify the DNA for the first time. And literally, this is a living and breathing village today.
Indeed, there is so little that has changed in the way people live, in the dimensions of the streets and houses and all that. So this settlement, Rakhigarhi, is the largest known settlement of the Saraswati Sindhu phase of India's civilization. And it is essentially on the banks of the Saraswati. It is now called the Rakhigarhi River, which is now a seasonal river, but it once was a massive, massive river which went all the way down to the Sea of Saurashtra, of the Gulf of the Run of Kutch. So Rakhigarhi is built along the banks of the Saraswati. It was a very massive river. Now, there are more than 1,500 unexplored archaeological sites that are known to exist on the banks of the dry riverbed of this river. So you can guess how much there is more that we can discover, how many more skeletons we can discover, and how much more DNA we'll be able to find, because a couple of samples is not enough to actually tell us what sort of DNA our ancestors had. We need many more samples, and that I'm sure will be forthcoming. Like your colleague was pointing out, there are bones everywhere. You can see bones protruding from the mounds. So there is so much left to be done. I think even the Rakhigarhi that we found is just 5% of what the actual site is.
Yeah, because you know what she said, 500 hectares. Rituraj, I mean, literally, Gauri is there. She's just walking in the fields and she just bends down and she's finding 5,000-year-old pottery.
Absolutely, it's unbelievable, isn't it? I remember working on a documentary for the ASI. We are documenting Kalibanga. It's another, here in Rajasthan. And, when we walk, we are actually finding bangles and, beads and across, the mounds. So it's like you're actually walking down the aisles of history, when you visit. These are very easily accessible. So people in Delhi can actually go out on an excursion to Rakhigarhi, and the next thing you remember is you're out of the city, you're out in an isolated part of the world. It was 8,000 years back in time. So this is absolutely incredible, and it's a way to understand history and archaeology.
Okay, so Rituraj, where does this fit into the puzzle piece? Because we've begun our conversation. I know that so many sites, but we've begun our conversation just to show the scale. So Lothal, we're talking about Gujarat near Ahmedabad. Right. Rakhigarhi, we're talking about, it's near Hisar. Okay, so in Haryana, we're talking about a vast swathe of land, which was clearly a connected civilization at one point of time. Perhaps on the brink, we've shown the maps in the past of the Gagra River, which many satellite images now suggest was once, not a seasonal river, but a full flood river, perhaps even the Saraswati.
Right. Correct. Absolutely. And, if you look at the expanse of other co-panelists have talked about, we literally have sites spread all across the country. Lothal is being considered the southernmost part of this civilization, but there have been recent similar cultural contexts that have been discovered further south as well. And it's only this is a civilization that was at a much massive scale than and if we look at the cultural profiles, it's not just spatial spread. If you look at the temple context, we dig in layers, as archaeologists say. And if we look at that cultural profile, as simplistic or as complex as Kalibanga or Rakhigarhi or Lothal, they're on cultures upon cultures.
Yes, so because this is what the mounds of Rakhigarhi are. What Gauri just showed us, the mound, every layer you go is a few hundred years of civilization, and you can literally observe the change at the same spot. Okay, down to the fact that there is a house right next door in which people are currently living in. Abhijit, the other big, today our southern journey is going to be in the Vijayanagar Empire. So we're talking about, the 14th century AD there. But you and I have sat, I've sent teams to Kiladi several times. We've sat in those conversations. Even in Kiladi, in Tamil Nadu, they found symbols, pottery, which is very similar. So there was cultural exchange, trade that was clearly happening from sites in Haryana all the way to sites in Tamil Nadu.
And that's not all. There is a site in northern Afghanistan called Shortugai, which is on the border with Tajikistan essentially, which is a Harappan site, which is definitely proven to be a Harappan site. So that tells us how vast the civilization was. If you think about the Indian subcontinent today, the nation of India, we have east, west, north, south, and it's all the same nation. This was even bigger. This went all the way to Shahr-i-Sokhta in Turkmenistan, to Shortuga in northern Afghanistan. And we find very similar artifacts in southern India, in Kiladi and places before that, in time periods that came before that. That tells us that ancient India, the subcontinent, was just as interconnected as we are today. It was one massive single civilization. You had lots of different variations and different manifestations of the civilizational effects in various places.
Okay.
But you get standardization everywhere, which tells us it's all interconnected.
I mean, it's awe-inspiring. Okay, what is right? I mean, imagine big cities, Ahmedabad, Delhi. You just pop outside the city, and what all we see. And here is another site. I'm going to take a very short break. On the other side, we've taken the journey from Lothal in the west to Haryana, Rakhigarhi. We now head to Uttar Pradesh, north of Delhi, just a few dozen kilometers from Hastinapur, where a few years ago, I think it was 2015, they discovered the first weapons hoard and the first ancient Indian chariot, perhaps 5,000-year-old. Now, investigations are underway on whether this is potentially Hastinapur, Panipat, Delhi, right in the trifecta of these three regions, whether you can archaeologically prove the fables of the Mahabharata or not.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.